Otto Lopez can be the next star for the Miami Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow wherever you get your podcasts. They're free and available on all the major platforms out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB, and get $20 off your first purchase. And on today's show, I'm going to discuss why I believe Otto Lopez is going to have a breakout season. I think Otto Lopez cannot just solidify himself as the shortstop for the next year or so, but no, I think he's going to be a star, an all-star, getting MVP votes. I'm going to explain why. I'm also going to talk about the pitching market. It's really hot right now. It's a seller's market, guys. If you are a Marlins fan and you're looking around the rest of the league, these players that are getting traded, they're receiving, the teams that are trading them are receiving hauls. A most recent example is Shane Baz. More on that later on. Also, some payroll concerns I have with the Marlins, the state of baseball as it continues onward. One more season before the new CBA deal in 2027. This is a live stream. This is a live show, live edition of Locked On Marlins. So if you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you have a question, you have a comment, fire away. We'll be answering them all show long. Otto Lopez, why do I think he's going to have a breakout season? Is this just optimism from your boy here? Is this just me saying, you know, I'm a Marlins fan, I'm a Marlins homer, I think Otto Lopez is going to do something really good in 2026 with no data behind it? No. There's a reason why I think Otto Lopez is going to have a breakout season. Number one, the comparison that I have to Otto is Geraldo Perdomo in Arizona, because they have a very, very similar career trajectory. So let's go back to 2023. Geraldo Perdomo makes his debut with the Diamondbacks, hits .246, OPS of .712, 6 homers, 16 stolen bases. Really nothing there. And this is when, not his debut, but I'm going back to when Otto Lopez made his debut. So the last couple of seasons. So the next season, 2024, this is when Otto got the majority of playing time with the Marlins after he came over from San Francisco via a waiver claim. Perdomo, still nothing too impressive. .273, an OPS of .718, hit 3 bombs. This is almost 400 plate appearances, by the way. And there wasn't really anything that Perdomo was doing to indicate that, hey, this guy's going to have a 2025 season in which he solidifies himself as a star. He's a good, rangy shortstop, got a good arm, but he's more of a slap hitter with a real good profile in terms of plate discipline. And then 2025 comes around, okay? And Perdomo goes off, finishing 4th in MVP voting. He hit 20 home runs. He had 27 stolen bases, an OPS of .851, and he hit .290. He was a legitimate star for the Diamondbacks, and he's just 26 years old. Otto Lopez, 27 years old. Lopez, the last couple of seasons, first season in Miami, hit 6 homers, steals 20 bases. You see the speed, you see the glove. He's got a lot of range. I would argue he should be a Gold Glove finalist at shortstop. In his rookie season, he should have been a Gold Glove finalist at second base. And then last season happened, and his profile started to evolve. You saw more power from Otto. And although the batting average tanked a little bit, it went from .270 to .246, the expected numbers were still there. His expected batting average last season, .271. nearly 30 points higher than what he actually hit. So that indicates to me right off the bat, he got unlucky a lot of the time. There are some improvements I want to see with Lopez and his game. Nothing defensively. I think he's one of the best defensive shortstops in baseball. But offensively, I'd like to see him do two things. Number one, be more selective at the plate. If he can work with the new hitting coaches, Corbin Day, Pedro Guerrero, who's been here now a couple of seasons. This is his second season with the Marlins. And just improve his pitch selection, I think the sky's the limit for Otto, given the power surge we saw from him a season ago. He chased at a 29.5% clip. That's below average for Major League standards. He walked just 7.4% of the time. Again, a below suboptimal walk rate that you'd like to see from an all-around complete player. Perdomo, if you go to his walk rate, walked 13% of the time. That's 93rd percentile. He chased just 19% of the time, whiffed 12% of the time. And here's the X factor with Perdomo and what made him so great last season with the Diamondbacks is that when he was, in an at-bat, he was selective, but he also didn't miss his pitch. He squared up the baseball 32.3% of the time. The quality of contact he was making was outstanding. And you can go to, for example, advanced stats like xwOBA 355. Otto Lopez does the same thing as Geraldo Perdomo. When he makes contact, it's usually squared up. Lopez squared it up 31.4% of the time. xwOBA of 328. It can get better. Okay, but the signs are there. Really good defensive profile. You have someone that has speed. Perdomo has speed. Lopez has speed. You have somebody that has shown power in Otto Lopez. And Perdomo, for the majority of his career, he wasn't a power hitter. And then it took that step forward. And he has a 20 home run season. And he finishes with like 7 WAR. And I don't know if Otto's going to reach 7 WAR. But when I look at the Marlins and the offensive production that they're going to need, they need somebody else behind Kyle Stowers and Agustin Ramirez to carry the weight and be a true threat. Lopez started off the season really hot. And then I would say probably July or August started trailing off. It felt like he was just getting into a rut. The batting average started to tank, but he was still a 3.5 win player. And so I think the similarities between Perdomo and between Lopez you're going to see them in 2026. You're going to see Otto Lopez, if he can be more selective and just continue a really good quality of contact, the power is going to still be there. I think you're going to see him run more, and the defense is already elite. That, to me, is a complete player. You have to watch out for Otto Lopez, and this would be huge for the Marlins. That would be your shortstop of the future. There's no more questions. And I understand you have one of the top prospects defensively in Starlin Caba. I understand you traded for Max Acosta. But if you can look at Otto Lopez after next season as your guy, as your shortstop for the foreseeable future on a playoff team, because that's also what you have to compare him to. Would Otto Lopez start for a playoff team? I mean, last season, probably not a lot. There would be some, yes, but he wouldn't start for the Blue Jays or the Dodgers, teams that were in the World Series. The way you can perceive value, not all the time, but sometimes, is, hey, would this team try to acquire this player at the deadline? Would they make Otto Lopez a priority? Because I guarantee you, if Lopez has a breakout year in 2026, you're going to turn on MLB Network and you're going to see a ton of trade rumors about him. You're going to see, will the Marlins trade Otto Lopez, especially if they're out of contention? And here's the thing. If Otto Lopez plays well, maybe they're not out of contention. Maybe they continue building on the success they had in 2025. Guys, throw your comments in the comment section. I'm going to get to them after the next break. We're going to talk about the pitching market and why it's so hot right now and why the Marlins potentially could capitalize. That's coming up right after this. First, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch. Finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. I use Gametime when it comes to buying sports tickets. If I'm going to a baseball game, if I'm going to a football game, tomorrow, going to the college football playoff, the University of Oregon versus James Madison, go Ducks, use Gametime to buy my tickets. And I encourage you guys to check it out as well. My favorite part of Gametime is the all-in pricing. It's simple. You see a ticket you like, you see the price, that's the price you're going to pay at checkout. There's not going to be another $30, $40 of additional fees. It is my go-to app when it comes to buying tickets. So guys, if you're going to a Marlins game next year, if you're going to a football game, basketball game, they have it all. Check out Gametime. Download the app, make an account. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, LOCKEDONMLB, $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Gametime. Thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live the Marlins every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Marlins with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Check the link in the show notes to learn more. We got a comment. Jordan Fowler in the house. He says the Marlins will be the first team in the division this year. I pray that's the case. I hope it is. I truly believe that this team can compete, Jordan. I do. I think there's work to be done. But again, if they have a breakout season from Otto, if they get consistent production from Agustin Ramirez, Xavier Edwards, the pitching staff is a playoff rotation. That is a playoff rotation. If the bullpen, if they make a couple of additions, they could shock the world. They could shock the world. Jordan also says the Marlins need to call up De Los Santos. Here's the thing, Jordan. De Los Santos is not ready. Not ready at all. He has a very flawed profile offensively. Elite power. I will give you that. A couple seasons removed from being the minor league home run king where he hit 40 bombs and the Marlins traded for him. It was really exciting, but there were some serious concerns then with his strikeout rate. And I still think with De Los Santos, it's more of the same. There was a big drop off in his power. His plate discipline just was still not in a good position to take that next step and be an effective major leaguer. I'd love to be wrong. I would love De Los Santos to come out blazing in spring training and make an impact at some point in 2026, but there still needs to be refinement because if he doesn't get better, if he doesn't cut down on the strikeout rate, the whiff rate, and make better plate decisions, then I don't know if he's ever going to be a major factor in the next playoff run. Let's see here. Let's talk about this starting pitchers market. Okay. It's hot. If you're a team that's trading away a starting pitcher, I want you to take a look at this deal that was made today. So the Baltimore Orioles acquired Shane Baz from the Tampa Bay Rays for outfielder Slater DeBrun, catcher Caden Bodine, a pitcher Michael Forret, outfielder Austin Overn, and a competitive balanced draft pick. Okay. Bodine and DeBrun were first rounders. Forret last season had a 1.58 ERA, and they're getting a first round pick. Shane Baz, with all due respect, I had him on my fantasy team for a couple of starts. He's not that great of a pitcher. He's got a career ERA over 4. So if you're a team that has tradable assets, wow. Suddenly you take a step back and you just think to yourself what you could get. Because I'm the Edward Cabrera, just keep Cabrera. You have the big three. You got Ryan Weathers, who's going to come back hopefully healthy. This is a playoff rotation. But I take a look at that deal. 2 first-rounders, a really good pitching prospect, a first-round pick, or a competitive balance pick, rather. Oh, man. It makes you think. It makes you think. And I'm sure Peter Bendix is thinking that as well. Thomas Joseph. How's it going, Thomas? He's in the house. He says, who are our internal bullpen possibilities from the minors if there's no free agent signing or trade? Thomas, we got a couple. The Marlins got a couple. I'm going to start by talking about Josh White. Josh White is the name to know. If you want to take away from this podcast one thing, it's Josh White is going to be a stud. I believe Josh White is the type of pitcher that's going to come in to Miami and immediately become a late inning option. Maybe it takes a couple of months for him to find his spot and his groove in the rotation, but this guy's got really good stuff. All right, last season, 45 games, and he pitched to a tune of a 1.86 ERA, 67 2/3 innings. Here's the kicker: 107 strikeouts. Legitimate weapon from the right-hand side. And right-handers are, they come a dime a dozen. You could definitely say the Marlins need a lefty a little bit more, but in terms of just electricity and a wipeout breaking ball, White's your guy. Nigel Belgrave is another name to keep an eye on. Got really good stuff. Again, a big-time strikeout pitcher. Expect both of those pitchers to be in Miami, and I would expect Josh White to possibly break camp with the Marlins out of spring training. Is Nardi done? No, Nardi is not done because he was tendered a contract. And this is kind of a surprise to a lot of us, was that I believed Andrew Nardi was going to be non-tendered this offseason, become a free agent. He hadn't pitched in a year and a half. He was cooked. Apparently, that's not the case. Nardi was tendered a contract, is still with the Miami Marlins, and is going to have a chance to earn his spot back in the bullpen next season. The bullpen is fascinating because a couple days ago, I talked about the depth of the starting pitchers that the Marlins have. And they legitimately have 9, 10 guys that could start at some point in 2026. Do you move anybody to the bullpen? Max Meyer is someone that I would move to the bullpen. He has an electric slider. It's one of the best individual pitches in baseball, but he doesn't have much else. And when he starts, that fastball velocity is more 94, 95. In college at the University of Minnesota, he was touching 99, 100 miles an hour. So I wonder if Meyer goes to the bullpen and his goal now is just 1 inning, maybe 2 innings. He can let loose a little bit and throw even harder. Then he's 98, 99, sitting there consistently with a wipeout slider. But the pitching market right now, the Marlins are in a good spot. They're in a very good spot. And again, it's conflicting to me. And let me know in the comments what you guys think about Edward Cabrera or trading Sandy Alcantara, because I truly believe holding on to Sandy, Cabrera, Yuri, who's untouchable, of course, that's a playoff caliber rotation. I would hate to see it break apart. But at the same time, I'm looking at the Shane Baz deal. Shane Baz. And I'm saying the Tampa Bay Rays got how much? How much did the Orioles pay? Imagine what you can get for Edward Cabrera, who has 3 years of control. Again, there's no rush to move Cabrera. I would maybe investigate some trades surrounding Ryan Weathers and just gauge what the value is. But if there's any sense that there would be low value, I've said on the show before, you don't trade him. You don't trade Weathers unless a team's going to massively overpay or you could package him with a prospect and get an absolute dude, a Yandy Diaz, a Tyler Soderstrom, something like that. First base is still a position that I don't think is set in stone, even with the signing of Christopher Morel. And the Marlins, I think, want to acquire another bat. That would be the main goal of this offseason now. I know they got one with Morel, but he's kind of a shot in the dark, kind of a wild card. I don't know if he's going to stick at first base the entire season. Mateo says 85 wins this year is possible. I believe it, Mateo. I really do. I think 85 wins is absolutely possible for this Marlins team. You're looking at a team whose core is still together. There hasn't been major departures, and they won 79 games. Now, if you're going to have Sandy back and consistently pitch well for the entire season, Edward Cabrera stay healthy, and your lineup take a step forward, this absolutely could be a playoff team. Don't for a second believe that the Marlins are just automatically penciled into the bottom of the division. That's not the case. Like Thomas says, he said, no reason team or financial wise to move anyone quickly. If we break out fast in 2026, the pitching will be the driving force. I could not agree more, Thomas. The pitching is the backbone of this team, the absolute backbone. As far as Sandy, Yuri, Weathers, Cabrera, as far as those guys take us, you only need a couple of additions on the offensive side in the lineup to make this interesting. And that's what it is. This division, the Mets don't really look that good. The Phillies, they re-signed Schwarber. They got Adolis Garcia. They're the Phillies. But you never know when their window closes shut. It could happen as soon as this year. You never know. It's baseball. They're going to be without Zach Wheeler. Atlanta, we finished ahead of Atlanta in the standings last season. Here's the thing, though. None of that may matter unless the Marlins decide to spend a little bit of money. It could if everything breaks right, but I have some serious payroll concerns with the Marlins. I'm going to talk about that right after this. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as this action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting's the best, but they also got live spreads, money line bets, of course, the college football playoff. I know I talked about Oregon, but for all my Canes fans out there, tomorrow, University of Miami at Texas A&M. University of Miami, plus 3.5. Slight underdog. If you like the Canes, you can go over to FanDuel right now and bet it. Bet some player props. And if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com, place your NFL live bets, place your college live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Hey, shout out to all the everyday listeners. I really appreciate you. If you're new to the show, if you just stopped by, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I have some payroll concerns with the Marlins. I really do. I was looking at the list, the completed list of the CBT payroll for 2025, including those teams that paid luxury tax, and the Marlins are all the way at the bottom. Okay? I literally have to scroll down in order to see the Marlins name and the number next to it. 86 million, just short of 87 million. That was their payroll. The next lowest was the Chicago White Sox, who were a disaster of a team at 91 million. The Tampa Bay Rays, who never spend, 103 million. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates, 108 million. If you look at teams that finished in the middle of the pack, you're going to have teams like Seattle at 194, Detroit 188, Kansas City at 180 million. Even the Rockies, 146 million. Those are numbers I can only dream of as a Marlins fan. And I think it's just so frustrating because this payroll issue has been an issue as long as Bruce Sherman has been here. And I don't see it changing. But I think if the Marlins, like Mateo said earlier, I think 85 wins can be the goal. Well, I do too. But is that going to happen without spending money? Possibly. The bullpen, while yes, Josh White's coming, Nigel Belgrave on his way up, positive reinforcements, there still needs to be external additions. You can't just stand pat and just wait forever. And I don't know if this Marlins organization views 2026 as a year where they're just going to run it back with the same players, or 2027 they're going to spend, or the worst case is they're never going to spend. And that's kind of where the pessimistic version of my fandom comes into play, is that the Marlins won't spend money. Not just now, not just next year, but ever. Thomas says that the Marlins could be worried about a long lockout or a lost season in 27. The pandemic losses were estimated by some to be $40 million, plus they have the Stanton money kicking in. And I believe, Thomas, they also have the Avisail Garcia money still on the books. The Stanton money for sure. A lot of dead money in this Marlins team. Mycel says they have to spend money, otherwise they'll be the same every year. That's kind of the point, is that if you don't spend, I don't think you're elevating your ceiling. You have to build a young core. You have to. And what Peter Bendix is doing, I am behind. I agree with, making these marginal moves, getting someone like Jansen Junk, Otto Lopez, who highlighted tonight's show, was a waiver claim, discarded from the San Francisco Giants. That eye for talent cannot be understated. But there also comes a time in an organization when you have to decide, look, we have a young core. We're ready to win. We know we can compete. We know we're good enough to compete for one of 6 playoff spots. We have the pitching staff. Now let's supplement it. Supplement it with smart additions. You don't have to have a $400 million payroll. One of the misconceptions of this entire financial discussion is that the Dodgers and Yankees, they're going to rule baseball for the next 20 years. There's no hope for anyone. Guys, the Yankees haven't won the World Series since 2009. They haven't won the World Series. The Mets haven't won the World Series since how long? Legitimately, how long has it been since the Mets won the World Series? The 80s? And they're one of the highest payroll teams out there. They didn't even make the playoffs last year. You don't have to spend $400 million. What you have to do is spend a competitive amount of money that gives your young players a chance, that gives your fans a reason to believe, that gives the community and the city chances to come to the ballpark, look around, and embrace a winning team in that environment. That's what spending money does. It re-energizes the fan base. It shows commitment. It shows belief. And quite honestly, having an $86 million payroll behind a team like the White Sox is embarrassing. And I'm never going to get on this show and say, that's defendable. I understand what the Marlins are doing, but it doesn't mean it's right. One of the friends to the program, Forever Marlins, over on X, he said, hey, guys, this is a developmental year. And I tend to agree with him, especially after the Morel signing. But that doesn't mean that's right. Thomas says the Dodgers were dead since 1988 until the ridiculous pandemic year championships. Yeah, exactly. 32 years for LA before they won the pandemic championship. And now, of course, they have every star under the moon and stars. That's a good pun. Star with the moon and stars. Anyway, They could have lost the World Series last year. Ironically, it was Miguel Rojas who was the hero. And nobody's going to confuse Miguel Rojas with a superstar. But the Toronto Blue Jays should have won that World Series. You could argue they gave it away. And the Dodgers are back-to-back champs, and this whole narrative of the Dodgers are unstoppable, I don't think that's the case. The Diamondbacks just made the World Series 2 years ago. It happens. Is the window now? Guys, I believed it was. I believe it is if this team spends. But I'm starting to believe, and I think I've accepted, that my expectations of spending money have to be tempered down. I have to be more realistic. Christopher Morel, I hope it works out. I really do. I hope he hits 25 bombs. But Morel isn't Josh Naylor. Morel's not Peter Alonso. Not that we were ever going to get Alonso. But I'd like to see a multi-million-dollar contract be offered out. And this Marlins team continue to build the farm. There could be a world that exists that you trade Edward Cabrera, get some a major league ready player, a couple of prospects, a really good trade for your organization, and go out and sign a free agent or make another trade. There's a lot of things and moving parts you can do. So seeing numbers like that, it's disappointing because a part of me feels like things will never change. I mean, get me to $140 million payroll. It doesn't even have to be, 190, 180, just 140, 130, something. Again, guys, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We're going to wrap it up right here. I appreciate everybody who tuned into this program today. Until next time, of course, stay safe. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Stay locked on, and let's go fish.